what you put out, you get back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's hard to understand that until you put yourself out on the line.
Welcome to another episode of Fittest podcast. I'm your host, Mark. We got the other Mark over there, and we have
Steve Coyne.
All right. So we'll get into it. First off, we'd like to thank you for coming on, and we'd just like to get your whole background and how you got into Strongman.
Right, so I'm Steve Coyne. I am a strongman promoter, coach, and athlete. And I really center a lot of my life around strongman because I find it very empowering for people. This is something that gives people an opportunity to better themselves and go above and beyond in ways that other avenues just can't provide. It did for me. My background was I started off as a fat kid almost my entire life, and because I was very, very, very fortunate to have a lot of good coaches, mentors, and influences, I was able to find some confidence in myself.
Okay.
And really, the whole game changed for me. So I want to be somebody that provides that outlet for others.
So you're like a thick boy? Like how many C's we talking?
Oh man, 4 or 5 minimum.
No shit.
4 or 5 minimum. It was one of these things where I remember, like 3rd grade when they would do our weights and stuff. Like somebody say like, "Oh, you're gonna be a football player." I was like, "What, dude? Don't tell me that, man. Like that, you're calling me fat in like the nicest way possible, but like, thank you."
I wish someone said that to me.
It's important because I work with kids, and you had that confidence with great mentors to put you in this area, and it obviously skyrocketed you to where you are now. So that little boost of confidence you get at an early age, which most people don't understand, especially I would say young teenagers, without that kind of push, they don't know where their trajectory will be. And usually if you get that kind of push at an early age in a positive trajectory with sports or with strongman or any kind of extracurricular activities. Yeah, I can't talk today. Extracurricular activities, it'll boost you to new heights, and obviously it led you down a great path.
100%, and that's what it's all about, is providing the opportunity. And a lot of people will never want to apply themselves, and that's okay. But there are a lot of people that are going to want to and don't really know how they're going to do it. So that's why I'm looking to provide the platform that I provide.
Awesome. So how'd you get into promoting?
Yeah. I had competed in several powerlifting and strongman competitions when I was in high school. Always so much fun, absolute blast. To give a little background on the specific areas I was in, so I'm from Arlington, Texas, where Metroflex is, and that's many
Nice.
people know it. Yeah, so a lot of people know that. That's
yeah,
buddy. Yeah, buddy. Lightweight, baby.
So it's so I'm from California, and we have the one in Long Beach. Is that like the
So
branch
a franchise of that.
Franchise? Okay.
Yeah,
so
you
it's
know.
not the original.
No, the original
Texas.
is where I am, Arlington, Texas. That's right. So home of Ronnie Coleman. Some people might know
Warren.
like Branch Warren, Johnny Jackson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, that's where I started lifting on my 15th birthday.
Nice.
And I walk in. The first night I was in there, Ronnie Coleman was in there, and I
That's
didn't know who it was at the time. I just remember
Just some guy.
it wasn't his musculature that was so amazing. I mean, of course, he's like a 300-pound gargantuan, but I remember the guy looked like he had a garden hose vein on his bicep, and that was the thing. I was like, what in the world is going on? So that environment, they would hold these meets where people, you've seen any of those Ronnie Coleman lifting videos,
Yeah.
That's the energy that those meets would have
Hell
in
yeah.
that facility.
That's dope.
So back slaps, screaming, and not just for nothing. I mean, we're talking 800-pound deadlifters, 600-pound benches, truly some performances. People coming from all over to get into this, and I just fell in love immediately. It was a perfect, thing to get exposed to really early on, and I said, man, I want to do this. I want to do more of this. So I promoted a couple meets starting when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking that into Chicago. Became a little more difficult when I was in Chicago, just because the fitness scene is not
the same.
as big there.
I think it's the heat, man. I think people are drawn to the heat and fitness because you can do so much outside.
Well, you can't cover up your body. You're
Yeah.
not going to wear a winter coat for 9 months.
Yeah.
That's
true.
It's very simple. People are half naked all the time, and
You're
because
more
it's
compelled
so
to
hot.
dress better and to look better if you're half naked all the time.
Yeah, I just want to look good naked, period.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to for a lot of us physically. But it's truly. I mean, what is it right now? It's about to be August 1st, and that means in Chicago, in about one more week, you feel that coldness in Lake Michigan coming in. And then in a couple of weeks, like, oh boy, come September, it's going to be time to get my coat out. Ugh. So, then coming back here, it really
That's crazy.
revitalized my passion. I actually had gotten going and was doing well in Chicago, but pandemic hit.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to run events with 50, 60 competitors, I can't really do that when, the mandates at the time says you can have 10 people indoors right now.
Yeah.
So if I'm saying I need me to manage 3 judges and minimum 3 volunteers for staff, we're talking 7 people right away. So what am I going to do? Run a
three-man competition. You can't do it. It's almost like there's like I've riffed on like how the pandemic had like my swimming background, they had televised like swim meets, like where you race against other people on the jumbotron. And I'm like,
really?
How? Like, listen, you're in a 6-foot lane. You can swim against somebody in another 6 foot. Like, honestly, chlorine kills everything. Kills germs, kills your dreams. Like, it's fine. Like you'll be totally fine. So, I just found the whole. I mean, we've already talked the whole 2020 year in past podcasts, so I'm not going to go on there too deep. But
No,
that
sure.
whole. Yeah,
I mean, we got to cover all the stuff that we actually got right at some point.
I'm not going to tell them that I'm right, but I was literally right.
I mean, you could listen to Andy Frisella, and he'll talk about how much of that shit was right. So
I'm still waiting for my apologies from family members.
Yeah, but what's interesting about all that is I have found that that was a great split for many people, and I have the things that I've done since all these shutdowns and all that have only been like far beyond what I thought I was going to be able to do. So sometimes you need some sort of, I don't know if cataclysm is the right word, but wow, what a disaster. That's like a historical moment in time.
Worldwide disaster.
And that propelled me to coming down to this amazing area. I get to meet people that are like crushing it like you guys with your podcast. I've made so many amazing contacts like in the strength, fitness, and lifting world. Unbelievable the opportunities that have been afforded to me because I was propelled to like change everything.
Yeah.
Because of those shutdowns, like really, like, and that's something that it lit a spark in me, and I see it happen for so many other people too, with their businesses or their just relationships or their individual fitness. A lot of people woke up for those moments.
I think that sense of uncertainty and that cataclysm, either you stay complacent or you found a driving point where like, hey, my fight or flight is hitting. I need to fight for everything I have, and it's a total paradigm shift. And I think a lot of people took advantage of that opportunity. Sometimes these tragedies or traumatic events happen to us. You can either fold or you show everyone who you truly are, and most people are going to fight.
Absolutely, and so many people unfortunately have folded, and like I said, it's really a bummer. But a lot of people will never like rise up to the occasion. For something like that, but it makes it so much sweeter for those of us that are going to.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that you just, I kind of got into sports and like physical culture later in life because I was too busy being a nerd and being kind of like a sheltered fat kid. I mean, I wasn't 3 C's, but I was the embarrassed fat kid who went into the water with like a t-shirt on.
I was, me too, man, at one point. Yeah, 100%, like 5th, 6th grade, absolutely.
What is that? You know what? That is just so weird to be a kid.
They're not going to know. They're not going to know, bro.
I know, it's like, because they're definitely not going to see past your, like, wet shirt.
They're not going to see my wet shirt that, like, highlights my man boobs
Now it's
even
like
more.
yeah. Now you look goofy with your wet shirt and, like, your tits were popping out when you were a kid. But,
Or
like,
t-shirt contest.
Yeah. But I think you said something about how, like, actually the circumstances around the pandemic gave you an opportunity. I actually made you kind of rise up to the occasion. And I think you don't get the successes that you are getting now without being able to see through cataclysm and actually making the most out of it.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's just, and this is coming from the perspective of someone who felt like for the longest time, like the world was beating him down. Like that's just kind of my thought. And then I started to realize the more I affect the world around me, the more that I can get back in return. But it's until you make that realization and you start to kind of see the rewards from that you actually can see that it's worth doing more often. And like you said, I think you said earlier, you're your own boss.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely love every second of it. And you're totally right about it. It's what you put out, you get back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's hard to understand that until you put yourself out on the line and kind of take a chance to do some big, daring things that, like I said, daring, risky. Like you don't get it. It's hard to take those steps and truly be vulnerable to give to others. You know, and until you do that, you're never gonna get it.
You started since you were like what, 19? You said
For
for promoting.
promoting shows, my first show, Metroflex SummerSlam, that would have been 2009. Wow, yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. 2011, excuse me. Yeah, so when I was 19.
So was that just like you were super excited to be a part of all this, and you were just like, this is the thing I want to do? You just realized that then and there.
Totally. You know, I'm very big into ritual,
You're
and
lucky,
these
man.
meets are, it's collective conscious.
Yeah.
You know, when
Yeah.
people are focused and bringing their passions and energies together, that creates a whole energy field which anybody there in the moment can tap into, and that's, you know, not just the lifters.
Yeah.
That is friends and family that are there to watch it. You know how many
Yeah.
people come to my shows, and I hear like, wow, that X person was so motivating. Like seeing this person do that lift, I've never seen anything like that, and that's, you know, that's the energy that we create
Yeah.
and put out there to.
You know, like my favorite coaches were the ones that were always like super passionate.
Yeah.
And like my favorite announcer, always like before like the 50, which is the fastest race in, you know, in swimming it's the fastest race, right? And he always, you know, before the 50, because it was his favorite race to watch, because it's literally who's got the most speed, who's the strongest.
Yeah.
You can't make any mistakes. He was like, all right, 50 freestyle, you know, more muscle, more hustle. You guys know who you're looking at, and anyone from lane 8 to lane 1 can win that race.
Yeah.
And it's always like super excited. So he was like, I mean, he was a great, I forget his name, but he was like a great promoter and, you know, MC for these meets. And it's something that whenever he was at the meet, like everyone was already fired up. So it made everyone swim faster, everyone cheer louder, and, you know, from the stands to the pool deck, like it just, the place was erupting. So like for you, like having that energy, feeding off, you know, other competitors, and you being an athlete yourself, you know what that looks like. Like I can only imagine what kind of motivation it brings to, like, you know, a bystander or somebody who's just watching.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. At this last World's Strongest Manatee, we had awesome, amazing client of mine, Jana. Jana's 67, and
I met Jana. Yeah.
Jana rocks. You know Jana? Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, a lot of people that were her friends came out and were seeing stuff. They were like, I can't believe that you did that. I don't think I could ever do something like that. But here's your proof in front of you.
Yeah.
You have somebody proving that, like, hey man, we can all do this. We can
Yeah.
all participate and, you know, rise above to do these things. And again, that's what it's all about. I keep saying it, but really it's about, you know, setting that spark to be better and do
Yeah,
better.
that's true. What's cool is too, you came into this. I mean, this is the first time you and I have ever physically met, but you came into this space and you were like, "Hey, I'm just here to like basically learn and kind of figure out this process and see how I can apply it to what I do." And I think that's, I said when you said that you figured out what you wanted to do at 19 that you were kind of lucky for doing that, but also I think part of that is you realize that in order to put this stuff together, you have to be willing to learn. Like the only reason why you're your own boss is because you figure this stuff out, and I think that kind of the sad thing for us is realizing that so many people were sheeple back in 2020, and
Yeah.
they were just so willing to give everything up, and
Yeah.
here you are like, natural disaster,
Yeah.
worldwide pandemic. I'm gonna figure out a way to make the most out of this.
Global pandemic, yeah. It just propelled me in a way that I didn't think was going to happen, because it got pretty bleak, I think, for, you know, most people at one
Yeah.
point in time. But you know,
At one point in time, like I can't tell you how many people like checked in, and, you know, I see that, you know, now that I work with kids, like I see the ramifications of a lot of people's actions. I mean, you know, kids staying home for 2 years,
staring at their screen.
staring at their screen, like, you know, with no supervision, has totally warped their minds in different ways. I mean, I have kids who are 15, 16, 17 years old who can't tell time on an analog clock. Like basic stuff that you
Cursive,
learn.
totally gone.
Oh, well, cursive's always gone. They have no physical activity at all. Like, if I asked, I have 8 kids at the shelter right now. If I asked all 8 of them to do push-ups, one of them could probably do 10. So it's like,
pretty
not
bad.
only are they weak mentally, I mean, they are weak mentally because their education is shot. They're also weak physically, and the spiritually, like, they give up on everything. They don't see things through. So, you know, we riffed on how in 2012 they got rid of Presidential Fitness Award. You were talking about
Amazing.
how you had a client that's 90 and he had the
Yeah.
Army's
Standing jump test.
Standing jump test. So we can riff on that and how that's molded a weak society. Because that's a generation that is totally not like how we grew up.
Yeah, a lot of it's high standards too. That's it. When you remove the standards, there's no incentive to
Yeah.
be better.
Because you remember doing the physical fitness test, the presidential fitness test.
Absolutely. And as you might have guessed from what I said earlier, I was terrible at it.
Yeah,
I couldn't do anything, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I was always strong. I could always in PE and stuff, I could throw things pretty hard. We would play hockey. I could hit a good, slap shot and stuff. My jump shot was okay. But as far as any sort of athletic stuff past that,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
No pull-ups, none of that business. Sit-ups, get out of here. Yeah, right. Running, nope.
So, from my background, I wasn't athletic until I hit junior high school.
Okay.
When puberty hit and I hit all the testosterone and everything started clicking. I grew into my body. So, from first grade when you start the Presidential Fitness Award to fifth grade, I think I won the shuttle run and that was the only award I got. Maybe the sit-ups and the sit and reach. Yeah, those three. But then when I got to junior high school, I got everything. The mile run, it was I was sub 6 minutes. I can do the shuttle run. I can do sit-ups. I can do pull-ups. I can basically anything you wanted me to do, I can do. And it gave me great sense of pride that I was like, hey, I got this. Even though it was obviously stamped or printed out, you got this little award saying President Bush gave you this President Fitness Award. You are among the top 10 percentile of the United States. I'm like, this is awesome. Something you can be proud of. That's gone. So, and that was the same time that they got rid of the.
About what year was that? Would you say?
Well, 2012. So that was the Obama years.
Gotcha.
But for me growing up, that was President Bush was in
Gotcha.
office. President Bush and Clinton, and then
Bush Senior or Bush Junior?
Junior.
Junior.
And then
Okay.
that was the same time they got rid of music programs and art programs too.
Yeah.
So it
I think those were around the time too when they started to kind of integrate the Boy Scouts. There was a talk about girls joining the Boy Scouts and stuff like that.
that happened later.
Was it later?
Yeah,
think that was a little later.
That was later.
I think it was kind of
But,
the same wave though.
Well, that started dying out. It wasn't cool to do Boy Scouts anymore. So I was in the Boy Scouts for probably until about fifth grade, and I was like, well, I got tired of all those those pack meetings where we did nothing. So I was like, hey, I joined the Boy Scouts so we can go camping and learn how to fix bikes and do all these physical stuff, and all we're talking about is talking. All we're doing is talking how we're gonna do stuff. I want to actually do it. So I kind of was like, Mom, don't sign me up for Boy Scouts anymore. Put me in sports, and I'll learn how to fix shit on my own.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Boy Scouts is another thing where it's merit badges, achievements.
Yeah.
The different things that you can have a clear path to achievement laid out right in front of you. And typically, of course, you have a mentor, you have somebody that's your guide that can assist you in the way. So, it's where is that? That's gone. And that's a big problem with, not only getting rid of things like the presidential fitness test, but just the overall
Just standards in
lack of
general.
standards.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And a lot of people don't have any for themselves. So, as I said earlier, another thing that's happened with this 2020 situation is a lot of people have gotten really aggressive in a good way into personal accountability.
Yeah.
I really deeply believe, as I feel that probably both of you guys do, is that not only are we doing this for ourselves, but we're doing it to be an example
Yeah.
of what you can do for yourself. And it's sometimes it feels selfish to say that because it's almost like, well, look at me, but it's not really about that. It's about I built myself up, you can too, and I'm going to help
yeah.
you
Amen to that.
if you want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you really can't be a contributing member of society if you can't even take care of yourself. So I think it starts there. And I think, and you're right, part of the mission statement of what we were trying to do with this is to build some kind of a legacy, to at least impart whatever we learned. Because we learned it in different stages. I think you said you learned it about junior high, middle school. I learned it later on in life after my 20s. And then you learned it because, like you said, you're a chunky kid. But all these points in time are something that some kid can pick up and go, oh, that guy figured all this stuff out, and it taught him to have some standards and strive for something so that he can feel accomplished. And I think it does suck that all this stuff has gone away, because just as human animals, the way that our brains work is that you need reference points to give you confidence. And I think the failure in all this is that, remember when they started talking about self-esteem?
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of self-esteem is good because I think maybe in the 50s people were so like intense about like driving you to work that we lost a sense of like, you should feel some sort of self-empowerment.
Yep.
But I think it swung the opposite direction where it's like, oh, you didn't do anything? That's okay. You have self-esteem. You're good enough as you are. And then people stopped striving for things because it's like, why bother? Like, I'm good enough as I am, like as a fat, pathetic dude. And to me,
It's the participation trophy.
that's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it was like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm overweight. Like, I need to do something about this. And there's just something about it that doesn't feel right to me. And maybe that could be like physiologically because adipose tissue produces estrogen, which makes you more emotional.
Yeah.
Don't fucking hate me for mansplaining. but like that's just, I think that may have been a part of it, and we took that away as a social movement to make everybody feel better. But the consequences of that are we creating like ineffectual men? And I think what's the like number now? I think they say that like men in this generation have like 50% less testosterone than guys.
In like 1960s.
Yeah, in like 1960s, and like guys in like for World War II, guys were like signing up to join the war at like 16. Like they were like underage trying to go and fight.
You know, just a reference, like, so my brother just bought a M1 Grand in an auction.
Yeah.
M1 Grand is the standard rifle for World War II.
Yeah,
That son of a bitch is heavy.
it is.
It's heavy. So
And it's hard to operate.
And it's very hard to operate.
You gotta pull that son of a bitch back.
Like I racked a couple times. I'm like, this is
There's no like 5-pound
Yeah,
pole.
but I'm like,
You're
well, we haven't even shot it yet, but we still have to get it working a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I've owned guns. I don't know if you guys have shotguns. So in a standard AR-15, it's less than 5 pounds.
It's nice.
Well, yeah, and it's very easy to carry.
Uh-huh.
So I could imagine like carrying an M1 Grand around.
You got like what, 5 shots?
5 shots. Yeah, 5
Yeah,
shots.
dude.
Having to reload that thing. Yeah.
And that is just your weapon. That
Yeah.
is not,
Yeah.
that is not your armor. That is not any sort of munitions. That is not anything else. So, like, think about all that.
Yeah.
I'm going through right now is one of my recertifications for training. It's a tactical conditioning course, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that really stood out to me, they said in the Afghanistan conflict, the average soldier was carrying 99 pounds of extra stuff.
Yeah.
And, that speaks a lot to like the Army and the capabilities of people that are at war, but you go and look at what kind of standards they're getting rid of now.
Yeah.
And just getting worse and worse. It's all steamrolling on top of each
I
other.
just tagged you in an
you
article
just
about
tagged
how
it.
they lowered the standards
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
physical fitness
Oh,
because
God,
they so the military goes in these waves where they either need to recruit a bunch of people or they need to get rid of a bunch of people. And
they
now
got rid
they're
of so many people because of they
They
want to
say
take
no
the,
high school diploma. Is that what it is? They don't even have to
No,
have
it's
a,
just like I don't know if they did that, but they're
Oh, they
lowering
probably
the
did- they
physical
probably did that,
standards.
the physical,
Probably.
check me on this, but one of the branches, I think it might have been the Army. You do not need a high school diploma to enlist anymore.
All right, so
I
what does that do
mean,
for you now?
And if
Like,
I'm wrong on that, it's one of them, but I don't know which one. So sorry, Army, if I'm wrong.
I'm okay with that. I mean, back in World War II days, I'm sure there were plenty of people who didn't necessarily have a diploma and they were just working the farm. And they were like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to war." That's fine with that. I think it's just the physical standards and people's and the amount of effort that people are willing to put into, like I said, to carry your weapon. I mean, like you're right. Like I think whether you're 150 pounds soaking wet or a 200-pound dude, you're carrying like 90 pounds of gear now.
Well, I'm reading Tim Kennedy's book, and
It's such a good book.
The chapter I'm
damn
on,
it.
he's explaining how he's doing these for special forces. He's doing these ruck runs and these star navigation trails with 140 pounds of gear on them. Like you have to be an athlete to do this kind of stuff. And for me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I want my military to look like athletes, not some, Michelin men, potato boys.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, and the same thing with my law enforcement and, firefighters. Like, I want, people who can fight and who can, actually save people.
Yeah. But I think that touches on sort of what you were saying about the standards, and I'm the nerd in this conversation, and I look at this stuff very deeply and like social implications of stuff. So my theory on this, and it's a loose theory, or my hypothesis on this is that when you lower the standards for a society, the reason why those standards are there, it's like, you know, there's that saying, it's like, hard men create good times, good times create weak men create hard times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think hard men, we created good times. And so we've kind of at this point where it's like, oh, we don't need to work that hard. It's like, what is strongman? What do they say about like, it's like fake, it's like making up, what is it, like yard work, or what's the thing? It's like made up farm work is like strongman.
More or less, you know, like every really original, or every implement and thing in strongman has come from some sort of like practical, functional thing, whether it's like carrying a wheelbarrow,
Baling hay.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, so stuff like that. It's like real down to earth.
Yeah.
You know, in strongman, it's turned up a whole lot, but it's practical, functional movements.
Yeah.
You know, carrying heavy stuff. You know, running with heavy stuff, like picking something up to load it up. It's really all that stuff is when you boil it down.
Picking up kegs for keg parties.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's exactly what it was for.
You know, when the cops come bust you up, picking up that keg and running it to the next house over, so you know you don't
Gotta
get
move
too
this whole
busted.
thing.
I've gotten really good at that lately.
Yeah, no, so what I was saying is like when you so I kind of came into this country as an outsider because I'm an immigrant. And so for me, I didn't necessarily have the sense of like, I'm proud of this country until I got to realize it more. Because I kind of went from the outside in. And it was like, I looked into communism, and then I kind of felt my own like oppressive parents was like a kind of a analogous to that. And then I realized more that as I was able to get stronger, the better I was at handling life. And I realized, oh, this is the reason why like the country had such high standards for certain things, because we had to stay competitive on a world stage, not just because we need to be economically better, not just because we need to be like smarter, but because there's literally factions of other countries who are trying to murder us. And in order to be ahead, we need to be stronger, we need to be smarter, we need to be on the cutting edge of things. And this is why you had like the Oppenheimers, but you also had the gentlemen that we talked about in World War II who were willing to go to war as young as they were and to see all this like terrible shit because they believed in something. And now that we don't have the standards and we don't have the unity of being a nation that strives for something greater, or having this ideal of what is greater, understandably it wasn't the best. I mean, there were certain things that we hadn't worked out, like, you know, misogyny may have been like very bad, but it's like, my thought on this is like, when a kid is growing up, they fuck up as they grow.
Yeah.
And then they develop. Any human,
Learning is
right?
part of it. Learning
Like,
experience.
Humans develop, and then they make mistakes, and they realize that they shouldn't do these things as they grow. And I think as a society, it's the same thing, where, you know, there were some things that you put into practice that worked for a time, whether you want to call it misogynism or the patriarchy or whatever. It worked for a time because it pushed a particular, it pushed society forward. But as we get better, we can ease off on all that stuff. Just because we ease off on it doesn't mean we should abandon those standards.
Well, problems lead to innovation a lot too. Like
That's true.
You know, somebody. I wish I could remember where I just heard this, but I was just hearing about it. You know, before the car was invented, and everybody was going around on horses, horse-drawn carriages. The big story is like, what are we going to do with all this literal horse shit that's going to fill up our cities when everybody's got a horse?
Yeah.
That was a serious problem,
Yeah.
you know, and so what was the innovation? The innovation was the automobile, you know, so that was like one of the things that led forward, and that's what, you know, kind of worries me about all this huge rush to, you know, this like crazy Green New Deal and stuff is that stunts innovation.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
there
that's 'cause
are
we're trying to
problems.
soften everybody. You know, it's like because, again, going back to the whole self-esteem conversation, it's just like when you tell everybody that they don't have to try because big daddy government is going to take care of you. As you know, I should probably say big mother government is going to take care of you, and she's going to coddle you, and then she's going to provide you with all the money that you need and all like housing and all the stuff. Why try? Like, why be like between the ages of like, I don't know, 16 to 25 and try to do something with your life when you could just live off the government?
Because
And-
eventually the government's going to kick you out. Like, you're going to have to pay back somehow.
Yeah. Or it's like, I'm all for personal like liberty.
Yeah.
Why
I don't want to be dependent on
Yeah,
you.
no, I know.
Yeah.
Like that's what gets me about like the way things have been for the last 2 years. You're talking about being your own boss. I would imagine that everybody wants to be their own boss and wants to like run their own show. But for whatever weird reason, everyone is like going in the direction of having mother government take care of them.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on with that? It's so weird.
It's easy. It's easy.
It is easy. That's what it is. Why try?
Just what you said about hard times create good men, good times create easy times. Well, you got to think about top to bottom how easy and how amazing it is to live in this time. From the technology we have. Think about how awesome your iPhone is. Think about walking into the grocery store, get anything you can possibly imagine, and not only
you don't have to hunt, you don't have to gather, you don't have to do your farming,
you don't have to do anything.
And the flavor profiles of these things, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
All of these fast food options, and that's what it comes down to too with like work and like you're talking about with government handouts is, man, it really is it can be, if you choose and allow it to happen, it can be very easy to live very comfortably.
Yeah.
I cannot even begin to think about what it's going to be like when things like VR really take off, where people can really escape. I saw a news article the other day, and it's like, oh my gosh, here we come.
Have we seen Wall-E?
Yeah, right.
Ready Player One?
Yeah, Ready Player One, perfect example.
Yeah.
But there's a news article. It's like, can VR improve the lives of like poor Africans? And it's like, whoa, like let's pump the brakes on this a little bit. I'm like,
that is literally the whole premise of Ready Player One. That's like literally the whole scene. They're living in shady towns,
and little like rickety shacks and stuff.
Yeah.
You just live in the delusion of this thing.
I love how in Ready Player One, everybody's avatar is totally different from who they are in real life. Awesome.
Yeah. Why would you want to be yourself in a virtual world?
But see, I believe that we can strive for that in reality.
Yeah.
Why would you not? Like if you see yourself as stronger, more capable person as in Ready Player One, like you can do all this shit now.
Yeah, it's called visualization. Like a lot of people don't practice that. Like
that's
the reason. Manifestation. That's why you create vision boards, and that's why you set goals for yourself so you can achieve these things instead of having like a fake. Like here's the thing. Like the virtual world is always going to be fake. Like it's not real. It's not reality. So why would you? Still cherish, live in that like
fake virtual.
You're not gonna have fake money,
like
shit. I could be a multi-billionaire in GTA, but it's not real. Like I can't take that money into reality.
I'm a trillionaire in GTA. For the record, while we're at it. So what's up?
Steve Coyne, GTA trillionaire.
Yeah, so
we should put that up as like the thumbnail. Interview with Steve.
GTA.
Damn.
Real life strongman, GTA trillionaire.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's like because again, really nerdy shit. Like as a kid, like do you ever watch like a movie? You watch like a superhero movie, and you're like, "Fuck, I can be that." And then I look for.
I have a hard time with superhero movies because I broke my arm because I thought
that's true.
Real people
but then you came to accept Batman as your savior.
Yeah, because he's real.
You attempted to become Batman, which is what's happening.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's like I saw the Matrix. It's like, okay, he can do that because of the Matrix.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I could plug in. I thought, okay, how do I learn those things to become that?
Yeah.
Or now it's like, how do I learn what John Wick does to be John Wick? And you could do that stuff. And with technology, you can actually access that a lot easier now. Which is exactly why it pisses me off that people don't want to do that.
Double-edged sword, like we were saying, it can make things.
I know.
It's a lot of things are very easy, and one of those things is access to information and lessons, or something like this. People want to learn about any sort of situation, especially fitness or strongman. What I'm doing, like you can find that information out easier than ever. Because I still remember the days. It was not that long ago where the only way you would hear about a big strongman show or powerlifting meet or any sort of athletic competition is like you would better hope that somebody mailed your gym a flyer.
Yeah.
Or else you would never know. And
now,
there's a one-stop Iron Podium. If you want to go for a strongman show, look up Iron Podium. It's got hundreds, maybe thousands all over the country every weekend.
Like Powerlifting Watch.
Yeah, right.
That's
the morning chalk up. You get all the email.
You get all the CrossFit info. It is like that. You can find all that information out now. So back to the point of like a lot of people are also able to apply themselves harder and better than ever with these technologies. These things that are.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You're
absolutely right. Like, what is it like? There are still people in the world who like don't realize that there are women who can bench press like 325. Like Jen Thompson can bench press more than I can. And she looks like just a plain. She's a
Jen Thompson
lady,
looks like your average mom, man.
She looks like a soccer mom.
Yeah.
Like she's got like the bob, and she looks like a sweet lady, but she fucking presses 325 like it's nothing. And I'm like, I'm barely trying to get there. Yeah. And like Jessica Butner, like she's like, what is that?
Got a lot of ladies hitting over 6 now.
I know. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why do I even try anymore? But see, I still try. Yeah. Because I have my own personal goals that I'd like to strive for.
Listen, everyone it's at a different level, you know? Like, just
Exactly.
because you're not there yet doesn't mean you can't achieve that. Like, I learned that through swimming. Like, you know,
Yeah.
You know,
there's always going to be people faster than you, but you can always compete.
True.
and there will be
True.
a lot of those people who are looking at what you're doing and like this
Like,
equipment,
oh,
this
yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
I would not even know how to begin
I know.
with what you're doing, and would sit there on themselves and they could bench whatever 600 pounds, and they're saying, "Man, I really wish I
So
knew
the-
how to start a podcast."
The
Like,
immigrant,
you
the
know,
immigrant in me does this. I look at like I forgot this guy's name. I think it starts with a K. He's somewhere in Africa, and he's a power lifter in Africa, and he has this like really shitty setup. In
I know
his
exactly who you're
backyard.
talking about.
Yeah,
They have those videos where they're like deadlifting in the pouring
Yeah,
rain
pouring
and
rain,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
With,
that
like,
guy.
pig iron and like
Yeah.
objects and stuff like that, attached to bars.
And like they do that shit, and that's what is kind of what grounds me, because it makes me realize that we live in like the
Luxury.
greatest society ever,
Luxury.
and there
Where
are
we
people
live
who
is
don't fucking try,
Yeah.
and it
Absolutely.
pisses me off.
Yeah.
So my coach that I started with when I was 15, his name is Josh Bryant. Highly recommend. His whole brand and series is Jailhouse Strong.
Okay.
If you're interested in looking
Yeah.
into him, everything Jailhouse
I
Strong.
started following them on Instagram. Yeah, there's a lot of helpful like tips. Like I started incorporating a lot of their methodology and training into my training now too.
So the whole point of Jailhouse Strong is, you know, what's the stereotype about guys that go into prison? It's like they come out like
Jacked.
jacked and ripped. And here's the deal: they're not hitting up the most, you know, expensive state of the art gym.
No.
They don't have like
They're
a
fucking
chef making their
towels.
meals. Right. They they don't have any of these amenities.
Yeah.
So it's really boiling it down to the fundamentals of what is successful. And I think the tagline even in the book is like, whether you're working 9 to 5 or serving 50 to life, these are the principles that you're going to use, you know, to
Facts.
get bigger and better. So,
Facts.
you know, for some of these things, no matter who you are, there are universal truths that anybody can apply to their life at any time. And whether it's, you know, wanting to get big and jacked, wanting to learn a new skill, learn a new language, like there's things like being consistent, being focused, prioritizing what you want to get done,
Yeah.
you know, having a good sleep schedule, things like that no matter what you're going after, you know, that's possible with these parameters. And
You sound like such a boomer, Steve.
facts are facts. That's all I got to say about that.
I'm just playing.
Facts are facts.
I'm a boomer as
and
fuck.
you know, these are, we keep saying standards, but it's so important, you know,
Yeah.
this, again, universal truths. And that's what's like crazy about getting rid of our programs. The presidential fitness test
Right.
is like, we know that doing things that expand your creativity
Yeah.
makes your brain work harder.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
And we're back.
We're back.
Sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulty because we're just getting back in the swing of things.
Yeah. So when I was 16, I would do some lessons, and I had this kid Mikey who had cerebral palsy, and the one thing that he wanted to do by the end of the summer was to play with the other kids without the use of his crutches. So every day I'd come in between practices, I would work with him in the pool for an hour, swim up and down the pool, working on his legs, and then by the end of summer, he walked through the doors of the pool deck without crutches, and he's like, "Look, Mr. Mark, look what I can do." So that
pretty
was like,
freaking
yeah,
badass.
like
Yeah.
I can't explain like the level of happiness and like excited, you know, being excited.
Don't cry.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cry. But yeah, it was truly like a blessed moment, and you know, one of the moments that I'll remember.
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. I think we all, like you said, we all share that same feeling, and we just want to we like seeing that in people.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. Like, because when you run your show, and you've been in competition, you'll see people in different weight classes, different levels of skill. You get the elite lifters mixed in with the people who have just barely started, and it's cool to watch every fucking time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Is I encourage everybody, get out there, put yourself on the line, get into a competition.
Yeah.
You know, a fast track to learning, fast track to getting better at whatever you want to
Just
do
do your
is
first
getting in a competition. You know, and for so many reasons. Like for one, like you just said, you have a combination of elite to novice. You know, if you're a novice, you're going to get to see a lot of elite lifters that are from outside of your background that you might learn a little tip or trick from.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might see something like, oh, I see how that guy did X, Y, Z. That's a really smart idea. And you maybe would have never seen that beforehand. Or networking, right? Because, you know, we're lucky that in this, you know, Bradenton, Sarasota area, we've got a pretty large fitness community.
Yeah.
But it's still not gigantic,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, going to these things, you're going to get better networking. You're going to learn more people that are doing the things you want to do, or maybe, you know, strongman's pretty limited.
Yeah.
So I can only think of one gym anywhere near me that's got a car deadlift. So like if I want to do that, I know where that is now because I've met the guy that has it.
Yeah.
You know, or the Viking press, or like, you know, this thing, like the cone, like, you know, knowing all those things gives you those opportunities to better yourself through that networking. So it's competing, you know, also getting rid of those nerves. It's okay if you're nervous to compete.
Yeah.
You know, and that's natural. You should be a little nervous to compete. At Metroflex, at my home gym in Arlington, Texas, there's all these things written all over the walls, and one of my favorite ones was, if the weight doesn't scare you, it's not heavy enough. You know, what an awesome metaphor, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going for a big PR, you should be like,
I
shit,
don't know
man.
how I'll make this.
Shit. you know. And on that note, one thing I want to say is that's energy. If you're ever in that moment and you feel nerves or jitters like that, I view that as raw energy. And if you can have the presence and the state of mind to harness that into enthusiasm and excitement, the whole game changes.
Yep, it's a beautiful
You
thing.
know, the energy you're feeling, whether it's 2020 chaos, like that's real, raw, pure energy. And if you're focused and intelligent about what you want to do and use that energy for, you can channel anything you want into anything.
Well, like my brother always tells me, is like, if you're nervous about something, that means you care a lot about it.
Yeah.
And like, I can tell you, like, before my state championship swim meet, I threw up before my race. I was that nervous. Because I carry, like, well, one, I was the youngest competitor in the field. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't expect to be seated number 1 going into finals. So I was like, I had a lot riding on this. So I was like, dude, my parents are here. They drove. They didn't even know I was going to be in finals. They drove from, you know, Venice to Fort Lauderdale. Now I got this added pressure. I'm like, what if I blow this? I had all these different thoughts in my mind. I was like, and it took my teammate Tyler. He was like, dude, what are you nervous about? You got this. And that instantly put me back in reality, and it was game time after that. So, but yeah, like you said, like if you're not, you should have that general fear, and like that little, little butterflies and little nervousness before competing. Like I think that's super healthy.
Because it matters.
Yeah,
it's like it's no different than like, oh, there's a girl that I really like.
Just do it.
Approach her. It's the same thing.
1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, and those experiences, I've had a couple of people comment to me that have seen me perform. You know, like, how do you do that without nerves? And really, it's because I've done these so many times that now it's second nature. Yeah. But still, big important shows, I'm like, oh man, I see that guy over there. Like, that's the guy I'm going up against. Oh boy,
you still got to perform.
Well, being a seasoned athlete too, like you learn how to mask it. I mean, for me, as I've gotten older, especially with like swimming, like you go to these ready rooms, you go to these big meets, people try to get in your head, and I kind of try to stay in my own mental zone. I always have my headphones on, goggles already on, like everything prepped. I visualize what I need to do for a race, just mentally prepared. And like same thing when I competed in CrossFit, like I had steps I needed to go through. The box breathing to slow my heart rate down, because if you compete with the too high heart rate, you go out too hot. You don't want to die out. So it's, and as I compete in other things, as I get older and as I coach, I'm like, I tell these kids, like, slow it down. You're going to be going 100 miles an hour when you get on that platform. You're going to be going 100 miles an hour when you step up on that platform. Slow it down. Bring your heart rate down. Remember your game plan. Stick to it. Yeah. You've done this literally 1,000 times. Yeah. You can do this blindfolded.
It's funny that how much the metric of performance is the same across the board, because I just heard this from some Mike Glover, former Navy SEAL. He does field craft survival, and he talks about how when you enter into a room, you want to rush into there, but you want to actually control your breathing, because if you go in too hot, your ability to be able to perform and shoot actually goes to shit.
Yeah. Just make good decisions.
Yeah, you can't make good decisions.
You get tunnel vision.
You get tunnel vision.
All things are too fast.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like you won't see these things until you start to focus in on performance and what you're capable of and how you can go about it.
And it translates to everyday life. I mean, if you're, especially for like first responders, like if you get that adrenaline dump and you haven't practiced this and you haven't learned how to control your own body, like you're gonna fuck up. Like, and that's somebody's life that's depending on
your hands. Literally,
So, like, learn how to control your breathing, learn how to box breathe, learn how to be in those high pressure situations, like which competition, strength training, weightlifting, combat sports in general put you in, because they all of those things put you in uncomfortable positions. You have to learn how to get your way out of it. So,
and use those moments in future events and situations where you feel those nerves. You can always recall back to like, whether it's a gym PR or a competition, or my favorite example recently, I went skydiving. So like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, you know what? But you know, it's like you can say like, you know what, man, I smashed that 600-pound deadlift. I got this. And for me, really, my mantra recently has been like, man, I jumped out of a fucking plane. I got this. Like, you know, I have no problem.
There's nothing that scares me anymore.
Right.
Yeah, roller coasters are boring after that.
Well, yeah. Like, what's more fun than jumping at 18,000?
Nothing.
Awesome.
Nothing.
Highly recommend to everybody.
I've been twice. It's fucking great.
I went in May, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think the scariest part was the door opening, and that's about it.
because it's just the anticipation.
Yeah, the anticipation. Yeah. And I was the first one off the plane.
Yeah.
I was second. I was so glad that I was second. You know, and I didn't want to overthink it. I didn't want to I know that I'm most comfortable when I just dive right in. So when that, you know, door opened next to me, I'm like, great, this guy's going to be right in front of me, and then I'm going, thank you. I did not want to be that guy in the back of the plane seeing like 1, 2, oh man, here he comes, there's 5 more, oh my gosh, 6, you know, ready.
It's just that door opening, you're just staring at, well, I was staring at clouds. I couldn't see the ground yet.
Yeah.
So, but when we went, I was like, you know, it was just that complete euphoria of just falling.
Yeah.
And, you know, I finally flew because, you know, we're going away from the plane, but, you know, as I said before, like, I hate Superman because he lied to me and told me people could fly, and I broke my arm.
You jumped off your couch and broke your arm.
Yeah, but I actually flew that time, so it was an awesome experience, and definitely something I would do 100 times over.
Yeah.
So if you were one of the first people, did you have the same experience as me where, you know, when we're taking off and like gaining altitude, I felt like I was looking straight down when we were there.
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
man.
I looked straight down, and like we went through a rain cloud, so I couldn't see the ground, and then we exited through the cloud, and it was just earth, just east coast of Florida.
Yeah.
So my instructor, he's like, "Whoa!" And he hit the parachute, and we went back up in the cloud. But it was cool because when we went through the rain cloud, you know, you get all the water droplets and water vapors and everything. I didn't know I was soaking wet until I exited.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool. It was definitely an experience that I'll never forget because how often do you go through a rain cloud?
No, I got to go through a rain cloud too. It was cool. That feeling of water vapor, I'll never forget that. Because he set our chute like right in the middle of the cloud, and then about 15 seconds later, we coasted out of it.
Yeah. I got to see the Kennedy Space Center and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So Steve, before anyone decides to do anything crazy like jump out of airplanes, and if they wanted to just take part in a competition, even the first one, what have you got going on?
I have 3 competitions that are coming up this fall. First one, August 27th. It's Beasts of the Bay, the United States Strongman sanctioned show that's inside the Tampa Bay Fitness Expo. September 17th, World's Strongest Manatee. It's the first ever team strongman competition in the state of Florida. And then on October, I believe it's the 30th, but it's the last Saturday in October, is Static Monsters. Static Monsters is a log press and axle deadlift competition. 3 attempts at a 1 rep max of each lift. We're holding that at Asgard Training Center in Bradenton, Florida. If you're interested in any of those shows, you can either go to my Instagram at World's Strongest Manatee or suncoaststrongman.com. All the links, all the info readily available.
Sweet.
But there's always, you know, I'm running a couple shows a year. I do have novice divisions. And I also, if you come to any of my pages, I have resources for other shows that are around the state. You know, if you're not local, you want something that's a little different, no problem. There's lots of opportunities. But, you know, feel free, again, at World's Strongest Manatee or suncoaststrongman.com. You can find my shows or other shows throughout the state if you want to get your feet wet.
Cool.
And you also have training at CrossFit Havoc, right?
CrossFit Havoc. If you're ever interested, I run a strongman training program at CrossFit Havoc in Bradenton. It's in the downtown area of Bradenton. That's 801 7th Ave West in Bradenton. If you want to come check it out, I highly recommend coming to a Saturday strongman class. We run them at 8 a.m. every Saturday, 8 a.m. And on those Saturdays, we'll do technique. It could be anything from kegs, atlas stones, logs, sandbags, yokes. I mean, it's a big mix of stuff, but those days, you know, really a great opportunity because it's a Saturday. We have a little more time to take our time.
Yep.
You know, we're not rushing off to work. So you're welcome to come to any one. First one is always free. You know, of course, waivers involved, but you know, not gonna kill you. I promise. That's just standard gym
It's a
practice.
nice facility.
You know, but you know, come through any time, and even if you're not local, you have some questions, hesitance, like, no problem. Shoot me a message. Like, I'm always, willing to help. Like we said earlier, doesn't matter how extreme or whatever we might sound about this or that. Like, ultimately, we feel so strongly about this because we have passion and we want to help others. So shoot me a message anytime.
Yeah, you got like a fire hose of all the energy and all the help.
Oh,
It
yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's great. I feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to have this energy. You look around and so many people are on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and
It's complacency. I mean,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, people need to realize complacency is it's gonna kill you.
Yeah. Just gonna end up being like if you guys ever saw Wall-E, you're gonna end up being like people in Wall-E.
Yeah.
It's not the life you want to live.
Yeah.
Man. You know, the robots taking over. Cool.
no, you want to be individually empowered.
Yeah.
You can do things that are far greater than you could ever imagine
Do you hear that?
possible.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
you
true.
could be your own person.
Whoa, no way.
That's
Get out
crazy. And you can identify as your own awesome person.
And it doesn't matter where you are in life. If you feel like you're at the bottom of the pit or the barrel right
you
now,
can work your way out.
I promise you there are steps to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
And there's
Cool.
always people out there to help pull you out of those steps.
Truly. There really are.
Always.
Guys like you, we want to do that. That's the whole focus of all this. Definitely want to push this more. But I guess we should call this a wrap here.
Closing thoughts, yeah. So I'm Mark with Fittest Podcast. You can find me at MCOX91 on Instagram or at Fittest Podcast on Instagram as well.
Cool.
Steve Coyne. Again, you can check out all the info for my shows, events, training, Instagram at World Strongest Manatee or suncoaststrongman.com.
Awesome. And I'm Mark at Echelon Media. So I'm the geeky Asian nerdy guy. So that's what I do. I do strong stuff too.
Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think Spotify does the ratings too, but we're on Spotify as well.
Something, yeah.
And yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for always tuning in and supporting us.
Peace.
See you.